Right. Good evening, all. Very good evening to all. अभी स्ट्रीमिंग स्टार्ट हुआ. आई थिंक ऑडियो एंड वीडियो एवरीथिंग इज फाइन. चलो, आज बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट सेशन है. सी प्रोग्रामिंग, कल बेसिक्स तो जाना है, राइट? सबको मालूम है व्हाट इज अ सी लैंग्वेज, राइट? सी इज जस्ट लाइक ए प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज. I've seen, right, C++, Java, Python. There are many programming languages. और उसी तरह C is the one of the famous programming language. इसलिए बहुत लोग पहले C पढ़ने के लिए कोशिश करते हैं. अगर C बहुत अच्छा से समझ में आया है, बाकी प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेजेस को और समझना बहुत इजी लगता है, करेक्ट? और लास्ट 2 सेशंस में हम ये जाना है इंट्रोडक्शन टू C प्रोग्रामिंग एंड विद द बेसिक्स. लाइक C प्रोग्रामिंग में कैरेक्टर्स होता है और कैरेक्टर्स के बाद आपको जो कैरेक्टर्स लिखना है टोकन फॉर्म में लिखते हैं आप, बट टोकन्स लिखने के लिए आपको सिंटैक्स जानना बहुत ज़रूरत है. बट हम अभी फर्स्ट डे इन सी प्रोग्रामिंग, लाइक विल राइट अ स्मॉल प्रोग्राम टू अंडरस्टैंड हाउ द सी लुक्स लाइक. अगर आप पहली बार सी पढ़ रहा है तो डेफिनेटली दिस डे इज योर्स टू अंडरस्टैंड हाउ द सी प्रोग्राम लुक्स लाइक, है ना? ग्रेट. Let me wish everyone who have joined today. Ayushi, sorry, Sharat, Miran, and Ansari, Krishnan, Jay, the Vaishnavi, Anand. Who else there? Yeah, Ram Sharma. Great. Vaishnavi, good evening. So, आज IO statements एंड डेटा टाइप्स वेरिएबल डिक्लेरेशन को हम जानने वाला है. और अज्यूम दैट आप अगर इस तीनों कॉन्सेप्ट्स को समझ लिया, देन यू कैन बिगिन प्रोग्रामिंग टू अंडरस्टैंड हाउ द लॉजिक्स विल वर्क विद द हेल्प ऑफ प्रोग्राम्स, है ना? राइट. इस 3 टॉपिक्स में हम क्या क्या कवर करने वाला है. देयर आर वेरियस डेटा टाइप्स. आप पहले दिन बैठ के सारे डेटा टाइप्स जानना बहुत डिफिकल्ट है, बट बेसिक डेटा टाइप से हम शुरू कर सकते हैं. जैसे इंटीजर के लिए, फ्लोट और रियल डेटा के लिए, और डबल भी रियल डेटा के लिए, कैरेक्टर कैर और कैरेक्टर टाइप के लिए. तो वी कैन अंडरस्टैंड वेरी बेसिक डेटा टाइप्स विच कैन हेल्प यू टू डिक्लेयर द वेरिएबल्स लेटर ऑन. एंड अगर आपको बेसिक आईओ स्टेटमेंट्स पता है, जैसे आपको इनपुट कैसे लेना है, आउटपुट कैसे प्रिंट करना है, और आज उन्हीं के लिए हम कोशिश करेंगे समझने के लिए. यस, Manai, good evening. Are we ready? Right. तो आज फोकस करेंगे. वी आर नॉट स्टडिंग ऑल द डेटा टाइप्स. क्यों? आपको हाफ ऑफ द सिलेबस कंप्लीट होना चाहिए यूजर डिफाइंड डेटा टाइप्स के लिए, है ना? डिराइव्ड डेटा टाइप्स के लिए. अब तो प्रिमिटिव डेटा टाइप्स पढ़ने वाला है. सबसे पहले व्हाट आर द डेटा टाइप्स दैट यू हैव, है ना? कल भी देखा है, बट कल ओवरव्यू में देखा है. अब डेटा टाइप्स में यू कैन क्लासीफाई इनटू 3 टाइप्स. एक जो होता है प्रिमिटिव डेटा टाइप्स, आज तो इतना बेसिक डेटा टाइप्स के लिए हम कवर करेंगे. और दूसरा डिराइव्ड डेटा टाइप्स. तो प्रिमिटिव को लेकर हम डिराइव्ड भी डिराइव कर सकते, और लेटर यूजर डिफाइंड. सो 3 टाइप ऑफ डेटा टाइप्स को हम पढ़ने वाला है पूरा सी प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज के अंदर. और प्रिमिटिव डेटा टाइप्स में हम बहुत सारे कवर करेंगे. वो है इंट, फ्लोट, कैरेक्टर एंड देन डबल. दिस आर वेरी बेसिक डेटा टाइप्स, है ना? इफ यू नो हाउ टू यूज दिस डेटा टाइप्स, देन यू नो हाउ टू बिगिन द सी प्रोग्रामिंग स्लोली. एंड उसके बाद अभी नहीं, बहुत लगभग 10-15 क्लासेस के बाद हम डिराइव डेटा टाइप्स पढ़ेंगे. वहां पर 2 कॉन्सेप्ट्स आएंगे, एरे एज वेल एज पॉइंटर. एंड देन एट द एंड विल स्टडी यूजर डिफाइंड डेटा टाइप्स. वो है स्ट्रक्चर एंड यूनियन मेनली. और वहां पर आपको टाइप डेफ भी आएंगे और enum भी आएंगे, बट वेरी डिफरेंट पर्पस, मेनली स्ट्रक्ट यूनियन हम पढ़ने वाला है उधर। ठीक, शुरू करें आज की। और प्रिमिटिव डेटा टाइप्स के साथ मॉडिफायर्स भी हम देखने वाला है। ओके, एक सेकेंड। ठीक है, मैं यही चेक कर रहा हूँ डीपीपी ऐड किया नहीं किया। ग्रेट, चलिए। हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू नो द इंटीजर data type example that we use int, right? This int can be used to declare various types of data, right? Various types of data. This int can help you to understand decimal type of data, and also can help you octal type of data, and also hexadecimal type of data. But you should know how to declare the variable. Then you will understand how to use this int, right? So we are going to mix up variable declaration soon, but right now understand the integer data type can help you three types of data. One, to declare a decimal data type, and octal data type, and hexadecimal data type. You can use along with the variables. So how do you use basically these three types of data? You should know how to declare the variable. For that, I'll just explain how to declare the variable first along with this integer. So you may use the int x, right? You can use a lot of variables. This is one way to declare a variable. And I can also declare two variables if I want it, a comma b. Even I can declare three variables. This comma helps you to separate the three variables. Remember, if anybody declares three variables like int a comma b comma c, the meaning of these three variables is similar to int a semicolon, int b semicolon, int c semicolon. The exact meaning of this line, instead of declaring, यहाँ पर तीन अलग अलग declarations किया है, इस तीनों को साथ में comma separate कर सकता है. Comma use करके you can declare all the three variables in a single line, right? ये दोनों बिल्कुल सेम है C लैंग्वेज के अंदर. क्यों? आपको टाइम सेव होगा अगर एक लाइन के अंदर आप डिक्लेयर किया होगा. तो ये डिक्लेरेशन की बात होता है. एक और बात होता है वो है इनिशियलाइजेशन. अगर किसी को भी initialize करना है डेटा, then you can also initialize the variable along with the data. That is the 10. 10 यहाँ पर होता है constant. What is the 10 called as? A data also called as a constant. Which constant it is? Decimal. And what is why? It is integer variable because you have mentioned int here. So you can declare any of the integer variable with the help of any of these notations. If you want one variable, you can declare simply. If you want more variables, you can declare. If you want initialization, you can also declare this way. Suppose you want to declare many variables along with the initialization, it also works in C language. Int, you can say p is equal to 1, q is equal to 2. If you don't want to initialize, you can also write along with that और comma separated by comma, right? So ये अलग अलग तरीका है variables को declare करने में, right? All of them have the same meaning. All of them have, just you will have the memory. तो सबसे पहले एक बात बताता हूं, बहुत लोग को ये शुरुआत में एक वर्ड होता है डिक्लेरेशन. शुरू में अगर समझ लिया बहुत बढ़िया बात है. डेफिनेशन एंड इनिशियलाइजेशन, are they same or different? The first point is, are they same or different? पहली क्वेश्चन है आप लोग के लिए, are these three words same or different? ये सेम है, अलग है? जल्दी बताइए. यस, बिल्कुल डिफरेंट है. तो ये इंटरनली सिस्टम में क्या डिफरेंस है? सपोज यू हैव रिटन इंट x इज इक्वल टू 100. तो इसमें कंपाइलर के अंदर और प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज के अंदर इसमें तीन मीनिंग होता है। एक डिक्लेरेशन है, डिक्लेरेशन मतलब x इज अ विच टाइप यू आर डिक्लेयरिंग, x इज इंटीजर टाइप। ये डिक्लेरेशन मदद करता है कंपाइलर को what type of integer variable, what type of variable you are using. So whenever it sees x in that scope, it knows that you are using integer type. तो ये कंपाइलर को इन्फॉर्म करने के लिए आपको int x बहुत जरूरत है, और ये डिक्लेरेशन हो गया। और डेफिनेशन मतलब इनका मेमोरी कब क्रिएट होता है, इनकी स्टोरेज कहां पर है, कितने साइज है। तो इसका डेफिनेशन मतलब whenever you declare like this, there is a memory created internally when you run a program and there particular memory assigned with x, ऐसा नो। एंड सबसे पहले ये बताता हूं what is variable, ये भी बेटर है। what is variable, क्यों वेरिएबल बता रहे हैं, कल इसको कवर किया है हम। वेरिएबल इज नथिंग बट इट इज आइडेंटिफायर ओनली, करेक्ट। इट इज आइडेंटिफायर, इट इज आइडेंटिफायर। तो आइडेंटिफायर का मतलब क्या है, तो यहां पर एक मेमोरी, इन जनरल कंप्यूटर में मेमोरी के लिए एड्रेस होता है। लेट्स से 1000 इज एन एड्रेस, बट हम एड्रेसेस इतना यूज नहीं कर पाएंगे, क्यों, हम हाई लेवल पे बात कर रहे हैं, लो लेवल में 1000 अवेलेबल है नहीं, हमको नहीं पता। तो डायरेक्टली यू कांट यूज 1000 फ्रॉम हाई लेवल, करेक्ट। तो लो लेवल में आप यूज कर सकते हैं, अगर आपको मशीन कोड आता है तो डायरेक्टली यू कैन यूज 1000 इफ इट इज अवेलेबल। बट आपको हाई लेवल में 1000 एड्रेस की फ्रीडम नहीं होता, फ्लेक्सिबल नहीं होता यूज करने में। तो आपको क्या करना होगा, इस मेमोरी को नाम देना होगा, वो है व्हेन यू डिक्लेयर इंट x इज इक्वल टू 100, तो क्या होता है, इसका नाम x अलॉट हो सकता है। तो x का जो लोकेशन जो है 1000 हो सकता, 2000 हो सकता, 1001 हो सकता है, इट डिपेंड्स ऑन व्हाट आर दी memory is available, operating system will take care of it और loader will take care of it, है ना। तो अब ये जो मेमोरी क्रिएट होता है उसको बोलते हैं हम डेफिनेशन। तो मतलब अगर डेफिनेशन है मतलब x is defined, x डिफाइंड हुआ नहीं हुआ सिस्टम के अंदर, तो ये डेफिनेशन बताता है what x is defined or not, x is defined or not। अगर डिफाइंड है तो दैट मीन्स डेफिनेशन अवेलेबल है। जब डेफिनेशन अवेलेबल होता है तो ये मेमोरी अलॉट होता है, तो वहां पर कुछ डेटा होता है, राइट। बाय डिफॉल्ट डेटा डिपेंड्स मे बी 0, गार्बेज डिपेंड्स ऑन वेयर यू डिक्लेयर, राइट। देयर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ द लोकेशंस, टू टाइप्स ऑफ वेरिएबल डिक्लेरेशंस, लोकल एंड ग्लोबल। And also storage classes will help you later. Right now, don't worry about what is the default value of this memory, right? And that depends on the storage class. अब तो हम storage classes बारे में नहीं पता, वो लास्ट में हम मिडिल में हम देखने वाला है। तो जैसे डिफाइन होगा तो x अवेलेबल होगा सिस्टम के अंदर, राइट, x अवेलेबल होगा सिस्टम के अंदर। नाउ somebody can use it to use the data. The initialization मतलब डिक्लेरेशन के साथ, डेफिनेशन के साथ फर्स्ट टाइम द वैल्यू असाइन हो रहा है इधर 100. This is called as initialization at the time of the declaration and definition. So declaration means you are informing the compiler what type of data it is. You are informing information to the compiler. Information to the compiler what type of data it is, what type of variable you can say. And definition, is it defined or not? Initialization, is there any value initialized first time when you declare the variable, any value initialized or not? The declaration will talk about. If I say int x, the value initialized or not, by default there is some initial value, might be garbage or garbage or 0, depends on the storage class. Again, so where do you declare it is, global or local, that we'll talk about later. Okay, so any value initialized or not. Now you understood declaration, any kind of declaration informs the compiler what type of data that you are dealing with, and definition will create a memory and ready to use that memory. And initialization, what value you put initially first time when you declare the variable. So all the three are there together when you write int x is equal 100. All the three are there. Declaration available, definition available, and initialization also available because you are assigning 100. Everybody got this concept? Some of the declarations, definitions are not available. That we will study in storage classes. Are you aware? Some of the declaration, definitions are not available. So understand, these two are not at all same. But most of the declarations will have a definitions included. That's why many people do not study separately. But in C language, there are declarations like I can say external variables. When you are using them, then definitely declaration only there, not definition sometimes. Then you will understand, oh, what do you mean by declaration and definition, their difference. Okay? अब तो इतना ही समझना, इस kind of declaration में definition भी है और initialization भी है. Correct? And when you declare a variable, let's say int x is equal to 100, and what is this called as? Data type. And what is this called as? A variable. What is this called as? Every statement in C language should end with a semicolon. That's why we write a semicolon here. And what is this 100 called as? Maybe you can say integer constant that you are assigning into the variable, right? Later on, if you want to modify x value, you can modify. Correct? This is exactly same as int x is equal 100. But what is the difference between these two? Here, the value that you are assigning is separated from declaration. So initially x might have the garbage or 0, that we don't know. Depends on the how do you write. But here पर initialization भी declaration के साथ है. But overall, the meaning after these two statements, after this statement, the meaning is exactly same. The x is declared and x is created, allotted, and it has a value 100. So somebody can answer it like this: x has a value 100 in the memory. Got the point? So this is what the meaning of the variable declaration. And remember, in a computer memory, in a computer or in a system, when you are running the program, this entire code is converted into zeros and ones. Yes or no? Then at the time, there is no concept of int. There is no concept of int. Everybody got this point? There is no concept of int. That means the compiler will inform to the operating system, oh, what is this x all about? X is allotted to particular memory. The size of the memory is decided by the compiler. Size of this x is either, because in C language, the int represent either 2 bytes or 4 bytes, depends on the system, right? This is a standard in C language. Some compilers, they take 2 bytes. Some compilers, they take 4 bytes. Depends on is it 16-bit or 32-bit compiler. Correct? So this size only known. So based on the size, the system understands, okay, the user want integer, computer want of 2 or 4 bytes. This is what correlation. The programmers want the integer, but system allots 2 or 4 bytes. This is what a correlation of integer. Now the user will access the 2 or 4 bytes at a time. That means you're accessing integer. From user perspective, you should aware how to access this memory. How to? Even you can access 1 byte. But if you want to access 1 byte, you should know why do you want to access 1 byte. Which 1 byte you want to access? There are 2 or 4 bytes here. Are you understanding? When you are dealing with a system or when you are dealing with a memory, then you should be careful. There are 2 or 4 bytes is allotted for the x. Then how much size you want to access? Right? If you want to access all integer, you will get 100. If you want to access only 1 byte, then how that 100 is stored inside this computer memory depends on the 2 formats: little endian, big endian. Little endian stores from right to left, big endian stores from left to right. If you are aware of computer organization, you will get to know that later. Right now, I'm not going to deal with that right now, but later we will deal. So are you clear? When somebody says a variable declaration, आपको क्या जानना है? You will have declaration, you will have a definition, you will have initialization. Okay? But internally, the computer knows, okay, x is the memory with the 2 or 4 bytes. Now, as I said, there are various data types, correct? There are various data types. Now, integer is one of the data type we have. What is the other data type we have? Char. Purely for character type. And character type is always 1 byte. This int represent either 2 bytes or 4 bytes, but character always represent 1 byte. For programmer it is char, but for the computer it is 1 byte. Always remember, computer understands you are using 1 byte for the variable that you declare with a char. And here 2 bytes or 4 bytes depends on the system architecture or compiler architecture. Okay, so now how do you declare the variables for various types, right? So here I will deal with the constants too, then you will understand both together, variables and constants. The one more we have the float. The float is for the real type, and even double is also, but precious is more than float. The float is just 4 bytes, but if you want more space for your real data, then you can use the 8 bytes double. It is also real, like 20.34, 3.71, something like that. Okay, the after decimal point, and what is the size of that float? That 4 bytes. Here what is the size of double? 8 bytes, so that you can store more data in real. Okay, and these are the 4 famous types. Now you should know there are 3 things that I'm going to deal here. One, I said data type. Other, you should know the size. And other, what type of data that you can store inside. Data, or I can call constant, that you can assign to this variable. And then what is the format specifier? Because programming languages, the C programming language especially, when you go for Python, they're all dynamic data types. Like X, you can store integer, character, float. Based on the data, that automatically changes its type. But C language is the static typed programming language. So compiler always knows what variable you are dealing with. It can't change its meaning. Once it is integer only. Right? Now, can somebody tell me okay, some of them, examples only. Suppose I use int, let's say int, and variable you might declare something, right? X semicolon, this is a declaration. So int is the data type here. Now what is the size allocated here? For x, x is identifier for us. So we are giving the name, for the variable. So where is the type variable definition? Let me define one more time. Variable. So variable is identifier. It is basically a name, or you can say placeholder for data. Is a name may be given to your memory to hold some data, so you can call it as a placeholder, right? Some kind of layout is designed for the user. And any variable that you use that's called as identifying for a particular purpose of data, maybe 2 bytes or 4 bytes. Okay, let's come here. Either 2 bytes or 4 bytes. And what data you can use? You can use maybe decimal, like I can store 123, or I can store octal. Octal you should start with 0. 0, 3, 5. 0 represent octal. Hexadecimal, how do you represent? Let me write in another row. 0, 3, 5. The 0 represent octal. That represents octal. And what is the octal? Octal represents 0 to 7. Octal means 8 digits are there. So whatever you write here, it must be 3 is in between 0 and 8. 5 it is in between 0 and 8. You can't write 9 here. If anybody writes 0, 3, 9, it will give you an error because 0 represent octal. So you must write only in between 0 to 7. In between 0 to 7. So 3 is correct, but 9 is invalid digit because you want octal. And other one is hexadecimal. I can use hexadecimal like 0x or 0x. And later on, the hexadecimal digits 0 to 9, A to F. So I can write a value 3A1, right? Even I can write a C because these digits represent hexadecimal digits. If anybody not aware, octal, this number system will have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 0, 8 only. Hexadecimal system will have 0 to 9. You can use any digit, and also you can use A, B, C, D, E, F. If you use 0, lowercase x. If you use capital X, then you can use A, B, C, D, E, F. Right? It's your choice. Depends on how you notify here. So I can write here 3A1 capital C. I hope you understood how to use the constant that you want to assign to this x. So here I can assign x is equal to the 123. Here I can assign int x is equal to 035. Here I can assign hexadecimal x is equal to 0x3A1C. Right, all are 2 or 4 bytes only. Now what is the format specifier you will use? Anybody? All the decimal data, right? What is the format specifier you will use here? You can use integer, so percentile D you can use, correct? You can use the percentile D or percentile I. Some of the compilers also supports percentile I. So other format specifiers you will know slowly. And if I go for the char, let's say char C is equal to, or CH, you can use any identifier name, right? Is equal, let's say A. Then how many bytes allotted in a system? कितने bytes है? 1 byte. और उनका data क्या होता है इधर? A, right? Any constant that you write in single quote, within single quote, it is called as a constant. You should know now character constants. There are various type of character constants. Yesterday, have you seen ASCII values? So that ASCII values, if you search on Google, there are more than 256 characters you are available, and every character you can store that you like. You can store new line, you can store carriage return, you can store a slash, a T, slash n. There are many characters are there. And the format specifier that you will use here, percentile C. Percentile C. So this will help you to retrieve the data or to store the data, because you should inform to the system which format you want to store. Correct? Percentile C will help us. Oh, that 1 byte I am storing like a character. Now, when it comes to float, how do you write? F is equal to 10.23, and some compilers will take directly, but some compilers you have to mention F here. F specifies the float. And how many bytes? 4 bytes. And the constant you can write 10.23F. And you can also use the exponential notation. Okay, some numbers like 23e minus 3, something like that. So that means 23 into 10 power minus 3. So some kind of the exponential notation is here. And the format is specifier is percentile F. Right, when you are dealing with this programs, you should write them and understand how they are going to store and retrieve. And finally, the double. Double you may use a D is equal, I can use 10.23 semicolon. By default in C program, when you write 10.23, when you write 10.23, by default it is double, not a float. It takes 8 bytes. Okay. So if you say F, then you are forcing to be 4 bytes. So understand, both are different here. The size allotted, this is a float. So it takes 4 bytes, this takes 8 bytes. So when you are assigning, of course, compiler has the capability to convert automatically to the 4 bytes. But in case if you want to use, आपको data properly use करना है, तो इस constants को सही तरह use कर लेना. When you are not mentioning F, by default it is data double, and here it is a float. Got it? And the same, it's 8 bytes. You can use a similar notation, but here instead of F, directly we'll write 10.23. And here percentile LF. So it is the kind of longer notation of the float. So LF we should use for the double. So these are the famous data types and their sizes, and each size will have a range. Each size will have a range. Suppose if you are dealing with 2 bytes, है ना? अगर आप 2 bytes से डील कर रहा है, इसका मीनिंग क्या है? 1 byte से डील कर रहा है, इसका मीनिंग क्या है? Anybody aware? Suppose you are saying char C or CH. What is the meaning of this? And you know, it is a 1 byte, and by default it is the signed. Even you can write signed char CH is equal to A. Both are same. And when you are writing unsigned char, and this gives a different notation. Even though it is 1 byte, but the range of these two are different. Example, if it is 1 byte, how many bits will be there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 bits, right? 1 byte means. Now this is represented for the sign. That means the actual data is now 7 bits. The 1 bit is used for the sign. You know, this data is stored in 2's complement form. 2's complement form. Everybody knows, right? Any signed data is stored in 2's complement form. 2's complement form, what is the range that you have? The range, if anybody want to understand, here 7 bits only to represent a data. 7 bits only to represent data. 1 bit is for this sign. The range of 2's complement, if anybody knows, the range of the data for this signed representation, anybody? Minus 128 to plus 127. And you can store extra one negative number in 2's complement form. So this is the advantage. How do you get minus 128? This is a 2 power 7. So minus 2 power 7 2 plus 2 power 7 minus 1. Okay, this is the range of the 2's complement number, right? But when it is the unsigned, it is also 8 bits, but all the 8 bits used for the data. There is no sign here because all our number starts from 0 here. There is no negative number here. So all 8 bits represent data. All 8 bits. But here only 7 bits. Now when data represented in all 8 bits, what is the range? The range starts from 0 to, anybody? 2 power 8 minus 1. What is the 2 power 8 minus 1? 255. So this is the main difference between the unsigned and signed. Unsigned will store from 0 to 255. Signed will store from minus 128 to 127. By default, when you write char ch, it is signed. And even I can write for integer also. When I write int x is equal to the 23, this int is same as the signed int by definition. Both are same. But be careful when you are dealing with unsigned int. You want only positive numbers including 0, then you can use this notation. You are already clear that I have only the positive numbers including 0, then I can use it. So here the range is something, you can understand. The range here total how many bits? Let's say 2 bytes. Assume size is 2 bytes. Of course, some size of int is 4 bytes also in some systems. Int is 2 bytes. Then 2 bytes means how many bits? 16 bits. Then here 1 bit for sign, then 15 bits for data. That means range is going to be minus 2 power 15 2 plus 2 power 15 minus 1. Understand? The 2's complement range. You cannot use 2 power 16 here, but when it comes to unsigned, it is 0 to 2 power 16 minus 1. If the size is 2 bytes, if the size is 4 bytes, then you have to use 2 power 32 minus 1. Here you should write 2 power 31, 2 power 31. Okay. So this is the main part of the data types, because if you have not studied digital logic and computer organization, you might have the some difficulty in understanding these ranges. Like if you are from electronics or electrical, or if you are from computer science, absolutely understand because you are aware of this. But if you are from mechanical, civil or any other branch, then you might not be studied digital logic. Then study number systems of digital logic. You will get to know what is this the signed unsigned representation. Okay. Got it? So I hope you understood the primitive data types. What are the primitive data types we studied? Int. And now this int can be modified. Like I want to short it. Suppose int is 4 bytes. I want to make 2 bytes. Then what you can write? Short int. In case if you want to modify the size of that integer. Now this int, if you assume 4 bytes, if it is 2 bytes, this is also 2 bytes, remember. And if this is assume 4 bytes, then what happens? In systems, this will become 2 bytes. If this is 2 bytes, this is also 2 bytes. Short int will not affect, okay? And there is another one, long int. The long means the int normally it is 2 or 4 bytes, that 4 will make double. So it will become 8 bytes. And you can also write long int. How many times you can write a long? That depends on how the compiler supports, okay? Yeah, DPP, this same PDF is stored on my Telegram group. I have already informed in the last class, right? If you are not there, Deva sir, gate, CSDA. And here every day it is shared, okay? This is a Telegram group name, and वहाँ पर आपका जो क्लास जैसे ही खत्म होता तुरंत नेक्स्ट 5 मिनट्स के अंदर ये नोट शेयर होता, इसी के अंदर DPP भी है, okay? So now this modifiers will help us to increase or decrease the size of the existing data or existing size. Okay. So I think काफ़ी है जो डेटा टाइप्स के लिए हम यूज़ करते रहेंगे ताकि आपको समझ में आएगा डेटा टाइप्स को कैसे हैंडल करना है. अब तक एक सी प्रोग्राम भी नहीं लिखा, देन वी शुड बी रेडी फॉर सी प्रोग्रामिंग. ओके. सो नाउ इफ यू वांट टू राइट एनी the C program, first you should start with the IO statements, right? This is the beginning of programming. You must start writing a program with IO statements so that you will easily understand how to deal with the data, okay? Now there are 2 IO statements here. The scanf is IO, it is input function. You know, in C language, whenever you specify this, mostly specified for the function. And this is output function. Now you wonder why these 2 functions are required to interact with the computer, right? Let's see the story of this. And you have a computer, right? This is your CPU or computer system. Now if you want to store the data, you must give the input, right? If you want to see the data, you need output. And where you see the output? Basically on the screen, monitor, right? How do you give an input? Maybe mouse or keyboard. input device, any input device. And today the input has a lot of forms. You can, speech is also one of the input, right? You can speak so that automatically the AI types your data, right? Even you can also listen the audio form output. So speakers also can speak the data. Now, how do you enter when you enter the data from using keyboard, how that should be stored on a memory? Like inside the system, you have, let's say, memory. It's a RAM you have here. Now I want to store the data here. Let's say I want to store the 10. Then here, the scanf function will help you. When you type the 10, the scanf function takes and stores here, right? Maybe this location, let's say X. And if you want to see the data stored in the memory, then you should use the printf function to see the 10 on the screen. Everybody knows, right? In case if you are studying the first time C language, then you should aware, if you want to deal with the data, you must give an input from keyboard that can be taken using scanf and will be stored in a memory. But you don't know what data is stored. In case if you want to see after some time, then you can print this data on the screen so that you will know that what X holds, correct? So to understand this, we are going to use a scanf and printf. Scanf is called as here IO function, input function. And we'll see the structure of scanf too, and printf is output function. Okay. Now let's see what is this scanf, and along with the format specifiers we'll learn slowly. Okay, format specifiers we are already studied, like %D, %C, %F, like %LF, and so on. There are a lot of format specifiers. Now let's try to understand what is scanf and printf, how it looks like. The scanf syntax we'll learn both of them together. In general, the basic syntax of the scanf, if you want to read the data using keyboard, then you must specify here format specifier, and there is a comma and there is argument here. Like I want to take the integer data and store in the computer, then here you must specify, let's say %x. So x is you have to declare before reading, let's say int x. Now what happens here? You are informing the compiler x is integer type, and I'm storing the data in a memory using the scanf function. So what happens is, when you enter, like you can see on the screen, it is waiting for your input. If you type 10 and press enter, right, press enter or space, whatever, then what happens is, in a computer, let's say it's a RAM, what happens? At X, it stores the 10. Now that means, using keyboard, this 10 you entered, and this 10 is stored here. And here the scanf is going to help you what format you are going to store. Integer, decimal format. This 10 will be taken and it is stored here. Okay, you must specify it, then only it stores in the same format. Okay, and now when it comes to printf, now I want to print this 10 on the screen. Then how do you do? In your memory, let's say it's a RAM, you have a 10. I want to print this 10 in integer format only. Don't print in float format or character format, it will do something different. So I want to print it is integer format only. Then how do you write? Printf. And here you can write anything that you like, but here you should write format specifier. How do you want to give an input? But here, how do you want to see on the screen? I can say anything like my output is equal to %D, then comma x. You don't write %x here. What happens here is, on the screen, this is the screen. How it looks like now, the way you have written the format, O/P is equal to, and this %D is taken from here, and it prints here as it is. Because how it knows? Because it goes to X and it takes the data and it puts here. The output is equal to 10. Exactly what you write, that will be displayed here, but only format specifiers replaced with the value that you have given argument here, right? So the basic printf and scanf, basic printf and scanf. Any doubt in this? And you must remember all are lowercase. If anybody writes uppercase, it will throw an error, compiler error. Here also printf without any space. I have seen a lot of people like printf. You don't give space here. If you give a space, it will throw an error. Okay? Everybody understood? What is input and output function? So scanf will help you to take an input and store in the memory, and a printf function will take the data from the memory and displays on the screen the way you want it. Okay? Now we'll write the first program. I want to read the, this is called as reading. I want to read the 10 and I want to produce the 10, right? This is reading and this is printing or output. I want to reading and printing using the first program. So now let's see the structure of a C program, right? Structure of a C program. This is the first program today we are writing, as we are aware of the two functions, input and output. And there are a lot of structure, a lot of blocks you can say. A C program is a collection of various types of statements. Okay, you can divide this into various sections. We may not require all of them, remember, we may not require all of them. I may write a comment if I have anything. C language comments always begins with /*. You can write any number of lines and you can end up with */. This is called as multi-line comment. What is it? You can write multi-lines where system ignores all the time. सिर्फ users के लिए जरूरत होता है, which this program is for addition, subtraction or document purpose use होता है basically, right? Comments you can write. And this is called as comment section basically. You can write many number of comments, and you can, if you have any global variables, then you can declare here, right, global section. So this global section, whatever you do here, it is visible for entire program. If I say int x here, then that x is visible to entire program, correct? I can have any number of functions. This global section is visible for, it is visible for whole program. And sometimes, and it also visible to other programs if you permit it, and also visible to other programs. A very special this one, है ना? क्यों आपको अगर प्रोजेक्ट बिल्ड करना है, एक प्रोग्राम बहुत बड़ी होता है, राइट, लैक्स ऑफ लाइंस होता है, तो आपको क्या करना होगा, मल्टीपल प्रोग्राम्स, मल्टीपल फाइल्स बनाना होगा. तो यहाँ जो डिक्लेयर करोगे तो वो बाकी फाइल्स के लिए भी विजिबल होता है, तो वहां भी यूज कर सकते हैं आप, ठीक है? और any other functions that you want to define here, you can do it. Like you have user defined functions. If you have a lot, you can write here. And how to write them we'll see later. Like you can divide the program into multiple functions. I can write 100 functions here. Those 100 functions I may use inside this. And one block, if it is the program that you want to execute, remember, if this is a program that you want to execute, then definitely you should have a main function here, right? Main, by default, it returns integer, but you can also write a void if you don't want to return. So very special. And it also has arguments, but that depends on, later we will learn slowly. There are two kinds of arguments here. There are, that we will use in the future, not now, right? There is int argc, and there is a character pointer argv. So these things, don't worry about it, and I'm not worried right now. बाद में हम इसको डील करेंगे. कमांड लाइन आर्गुमेंट्स बोलते हैं इसको. ओके, नाउ यहां पर आपका प्रोग्राम होगा, ठीक है? ये कंपलसरी फंक्शन है अगर इस प्रोग्राम को एग्जीक्यूट करना है, ठीक है? ये मेन फंक्शन कंपलसरी होता है. लास्ट आपको रिटर्न by default तो होता है return 0 or you can return anything to understand whether it is successful or not. Okay, so this is how you write a program, and the program is the well structured in general, and पहले compulsory नहीं है, comments ignore it if you don't want, global section if you don't have any global variables or to declare, ignore it, and no user defined functions, ignore it, and if you want to see something then write this function and work on it. So first program I'm going to write now, that is how to read the data and how to print the data. Okay, so I'm directly starting from the main function. Okay, there is one more section that will help you. Of course, many people writes it. I'll write here. Right now, it was not required, so I didn't mention it. But there is one more section you can mention here is directives. Directives need not be here. Remember that. You can write anywhere. You can write anywhere in the program. That's why I didn't mention it, but I want it now, so I'm mentioning directives. I can write anywhere in the program. Okay, so depends on the scope it will work on. Now here I can write, if I have any predefined the functions I want to use it, then I must mention a preprocessor directive called as #include, and stdio.h is called as a very famous header file. What is the stdio.h? stdio.h is another C program. It's specified as header file. It has all the declarations which are already available. So this is the header file. It contains various IO functions. If any other variables also, if predefined, then they will also present. And what are the IO functions are there in this? Declarations only. It contains various IO function headers. Headers basically declarations. So actual function is there in the library file. There is another file which is correspond to this is a library file. This library file is linked during linking stage. Okay, तो यहाँ पर stdio.h जो है, इनके अंदर ये जो एक सी प्रोग्राम तरह है, इसके अंदर हेडर्स होगा, एक्चुअल डेफिनेशन होगा ये लाइब्रेरी फाइल के अंदर, तो बाद में ये लिंक होगा. printf आप लिखोगे सीधा इधर, तो printf इसके अंदर ऑलरेडी डिक्लेरेशन है, उसी डिक्लेरेशन को फॉलो करेगा. सो कंपाइलर को पता होगा किस टाइप की डिक्लेरेशन है और उनकी मीनिंग इसके अंदर होगा. ठीक है, एंड आई वांट टू take the data into the X, so you can ask the user like printf enter number, anything, enter data, enter value, enter X, whatever, enter data, and you want to see like, you know, in a specific format, colon, and as it is it will print. Okay, on the screen it will print as it is and colon, and it will wait for your input if you write a scanf here. And which format you want to take? %d integer format. And where do you want to store? In X. So %x, this ampersand is called as the address of. Here when you write address %x, it means address of, the ampersand means address of X. That means the in memory you have X, and at this address it will be storing. Right, address of X means the actual memory address will print if you want to see it. We'll see that later on. But ampersand is used to locate the memory. Okay. And now the data will store at X place because of this line. Because of this line, it will show on the screen enter data, but data will not go inside. When you write this, the X will, whatever you enter that data using keyboard, it will store in X. And now later on, I want to see what is stored in X. Then you can see that in your way, printf, I want to see the data at X. X is equal to %d. So here the value prints what you have entered. Okay, comma X. Now whatever here, don't write %x. Remember %x if you write, it will print address here, not the data. So X, whatever it holds, it stores here. Now, after completing your program, you can write return or you can ignore it. By default, it returns 0. Okay. Now, are you able to understand what I have written here? Here, the various sections I have written. This section is called as a declaration, and this statement is a printf. And this section is scanf, and this section is another printf, and this is just to return. Okay, so this are 4 blocks that I'm 4 statements I've written here. So what is the first one is called as? This is a variable declaration. If you have a single line comment, you can specify this is a C++ style, double slash, means you can complete the comment here in single line. So this will be ignored while execution, okay, while compiling itself. So this is a variable declaration. All the comments are deleted while compiling itself. And this is a function. Which function? Output function. What is this? Input function. And what is this? Again, output function. And this is to return because you are it is expecting integer value, so you are returning 0. We'll learn this later on during functions. So everybody got how to write. So always remember, in C language, the beginning of the block you should write a declarations. You don't have a freedom to declare everywhere, but after C++ invention, you can declare anywhere. So modern compiler, if it supports C and C++, then this int x you can write anywhere wherever you want to use that x before. So before this also you can write int x if your compiler supports. But in standard C compiler, all the declarations are beginning of the block. This is called as a block. What is this called as? Is called as a block. Which block? The main block. And there could be a lot of blocks inside the program. So this block basically contains 0 or more statements. When you have 0 or more statements, you can begin and close. And this entire structure is called as a one block right now. Okay, I hope everybody clear how the C program looks like. Now, if you want to understand this, it's very important for the beginners to understand what happens. This is a keyboard or screen, you can say. Directly will work on screen. Okay, on screen, and starts executing. When this executes or compiles, this int x, so compiler aware of that, x memory is created. X memory is created, and this executes when runtime. When this executes, printf enter data. So directly it reflects on the screen that you will see enter. Whatever the way you have written, it shows exactly the same way, colon, that's it. And it is not going to, print anything else. Now, when after completion of this, scanf. So at this point, it is waiting to read the data. So now using keyboard, you have to enter the data. If I enter here 1 0, so remember that 1 0 is not printed, you have to enter it using keyboard. This 10, enter using input device. Then press enter. What happens? Then immediately in a RAM, already X memory is created. At this place, 10 is stored. And after this, the 10 is there in the memory but not visible to you. Right? You enter 10 and stored in the memory and not visible to you. Now you want to see that 10 and I want to print on the screen, and this printf will help you. What is it? X is equal. When this executes, because you told that after scanf I want printf, then this X is equal to %d. So this value is taken from here directly because you said X here. So now 10 will come here and it will print 10. Right? This is how you should, and remember, every statement should end with a semicolon because that is the structured programming syntax. Every statement should end with semicolon. You can see that. Every statement ending with semicolon. Everybody? So any basic, any person who want to understand the basics, yes, this session is purely basics. I have not taught anything advanced right now, but will go to much advanced once we are covering covered the basics. Okay, wait till 4 or 5 classes, you will get a lot of programs to understand, but beginning, please understand what is each one is happening here. The analysis is very important to understand the program. Many people don't understand what's happening, then they'll get in trouble where to write a scanf and printf. आपको अब समझ में आ रहा होगा scanf कहाँ लिखना है, printf कहाँ लिखना है. ये printf अगर नहीं लिखा कुछ नहीं होता, ये print नहीं होता, but 10 के लिए वेट कर रहा होगा, तो 10 एंटर कर दो, automatically it will print x is equal 10. बात समझ में आ रहा है? This is not compulsory. You can delete if you want it. Then this will not be there. That's it. It will wait for your input. When you enter 10 and automatically it prints x is equal 10. So आपको पता होना चाहिए printf आपको जरूर है नहीं. ठीक? So this is all about printf and scanf. Can we practice some of the printf scanf? Okay, let's see who will answer it. Okay, first example, int main, and always practice return 0 here. Okay, and I'm just writing here something, understand. Int x is equal to 156, y is equal to 23, and z is equal to 1. I'm doing something, just understand. Printf %d comma x. Okay. X is equal to printf. You should analyze each and every line here. Then you will get to know what's happening. Y and printf %d comma x. And I will ignore the z right now. Just it's x, y, and f to understand. Okay. What will happen here? When you execute the first line, assume that this will create a memory value with 156 and y with a 23, correct? Once you execute this line, these two layouts will be created in a system. Now, can someone tell me what happens the first on the screen? I'll put a screen here and look at this screen, what it prints. This is your screen monitor. And when this printf executes, what will it print? %d. What is the value of x? 156. Correct? And after that, you did not give any new line or nothing, right? There is nothing here. So next output will print from here itself. If you want a next output is new line, then you have to use the /n. What is it? /n is to represent a new line. If you really want a new line, the next output is here, then you have to mention here slight modification to this printf is, remember, the /n. Are you able to understand? Otherwise, what happens? The next output will continue from here. Correct? So the /n means the next output will come from, cursor comes here. Now, this one, look at x is equal printf. Now, first printf will execute. What is the printf? %d, that is y. What is y? Y is 23. So it prints 23. But you have written something else. This printf is very special. The reason is this printf, it returns some value to the x. Can someone tell me what value it returns? Normally every scanf, printf written something, but we don't catch. If you catch it, you will see some output. What is the output that will be stored on X? How many characters are printed on the screen because of this printf? 1, 2. Yes or no? And that will be stored on X. X already holding 156, it will be modified with the 2. Everybody understood how the X is modified? Because this printf is printing 2 characters, 2, 3. So that 2, 3 means 2 characters. The return value of the printf, is number of characters printed on the screen because of this printf. Only this printf look at, don't look at the previous printf. So 2 will be stored, and here you did not mention any new line, right? So what happens is immediately it is going to execute. This is over, right? It is over. And when you are executing this, the X value is going to print. What is the X value? Now 2, it will print here because you did not mention again new line, right? You have not mentioned anything in this. So it will print that 2 after 23 only. So everybody understood? That's it. Then return 0, the control returns to operating system. Here enters, right? Operating system starts executing here, and the control returns to the operating system back. The final output is just like 156, new line, 23, then 2. 3 different prints are there, and this printf prints 156 and new line, and then this one prints y value is 23, but returns the x to that is the value is 2, because number of characters here printed 23, 2. Okay, this is the final output. Everybody got how the printf works in a system with the C programming. Similarly, scanf also there. We will deal one program. Okay, so scanf and printf, we'll see a lot of other examples in the coming classes because I have another class to take after this. So I'll just wind up a few concepts after this. Okay, yeah, the scanf one example we'll take, then we'll wind up. And always remember, a good practice is keep # include stdio.h in case if it demands, okay? Because you are using printf scanf, if you don't write it, compiler may throw an error. Many compilers by default this header file is taken, but if it is not taking, you should write it. Okay, practice it writing initially, later on you can ignore it with the compiler supports. Okay. Int x comma y comma g and z is equal to scanf %d. Don't give any space or comma, something like that. It will expect the same. If you write %d space %d, then input also you should write 23 space 10. Then 23 goes to first variable and 10 goes to another variable. Remember, anything, if you put a comma here, then you should write a 23 comma 10 using keyboard. So this specifier is very important, format string. The way you write, it will take the same way. We'll practice in coming classes how to deal with this. Okay, I want to take the values into x and y, and then I want to print what is there in the z, not in x, y, okay? I want to print what is there in the z. Anybody? What happens? Right, on screen you are doing some job here, right? What job? And x is there in the memory, y is there in the memory, and z is also there in the memory. And initially when you give the values, let's say 10. Now while giving, you can give space to separate the arguments. 10 space 20 or 10, next you can enter 20, you can enter. You can enter this way, or you can also give the 10 space 20. That also works. Because by default, this format specifiers separated by the space while giving an input. Okay, remember that. Now, 10, 20 you have entered. What happens? The x gets 10, y gets 20. Because this %d for ampersand x, this percentile d for ampersand y. Now after this scanf function is going to return something to it. Z. What it returns? How many arguments it has taken? How many? The 2 arguments. How many arguments? 2 arguments it has taken successfully. It returns, the scanf returns number of arguments, a number of inputs that it has taken. How many inputs it has taken? 2 inputs. So Z gets 2. And when you print here, the percentile d value is 2. Everybody got the answer? This is how the scanf and printf works. Printf returns the number of characters printed on the screen. Scanf returns how many inputs it has taken. 2 inputs it has taken, 10 and 20. Okay. So with this, we have completed the today's session. And if anybody want to practice the DPP questions, you can practice, and next class we will deal with a lot of examples. What is the size of int on a 32-bit system? Clearly mentioned, on a 32-bit system, what is the size of integer? Okay, take care of it. How do you define? Now 2 or 4 in general we know, but now we can't say 2 or 4. Now when I mention the system, the architecture, then you should know exactly what is the integer size. And which format specifier you will use for the float? You are aware of it already. Float, which format specifier? And which of the following is a valid variable declaration? We already learned that. One more time we have here. Okay. So which is the valid declaration? Like integer. Is this correct? No, because you cannot start with the digit. So understand what is the exact way. What is the keyword to define a variable that only stores positive value? So if you want to store positive values, which keyword you will use along with the declaration? Like we'll use signed or unsigned, already mentioned that in the class. Okay. Which data type is used to store a single character? If you want to store single character, which data type you will use? Int, char, string, float. Name itself as the answer. Okay. What is the output format specifier for int value? So which output format specifier you will use? Of course, some systems will allow even ID, so you understand. What is the purpose of scanf in C language? To compile the code, to print data, to take input, to declare variable, so you are aware of it. Okay. Which function is used to display output on the screen? Just now we learned. Is it output or printf display? Right? You know it. What is the correct syntax to read an integer value? So there are various syntaxes given, and which one you will use to read the data. So remember, many people does a mistake here by missing the ampersand x that already you have here. So this is the correct one, but you try to understand. And which header file is required to use printf and scanf in this program? So which header file that you will use? There are different header files are there in C language, and which header file will be used to use a printf and scanf. Okay, that you already aware. Okay, still you have other questions, please read yourself and answer it. 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15. Yes, thank you so much for joining today, and see you tomorrow. From today our sessions will be from Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If I get a free time, I'll take the practice sessions. If I don't get a free time, then we'll continue from Monday to Friday. Okay. Yeah. And don't forget to like the session, and also comment every question that I have given in DPP, so that other people get help from your answers. Okay. In case if you like the session, and also comment like how did you enjoy the session, so that other people gets a benefit like from these sessions especially. Right. Yeah. Thank you all, everyone. Thank you, everyone. All your inputs will be taken. If you need to cover any special topic, please mention in the comment. That will be taken in the that will be covered in the coming sessions in future. Okay. Thank you. Bye bye. Take care. जय हिंद।